What's up, YouTube? As you can see from the title, today's video is going to be about injuries. Yay, injuries! No, not really. Boo, injuries. But this video is not going to be about it's going to be more about what you do after you have the injury, after you realize, hey, I'm hurting and it doesn't feel right. So, injury prevention can be another video, but today it's just going to be about what you do after you realize you have an injury. First of all, first thing is realizing you have an injury. That can be a bit difficult. Once you get used to realizing soreness and that sort of pain from exercising, then you can start differentiating between, hey, this pain doesn't feel right, versus, hey man, God, I had a great workout yesterday and it felt awesome and I'm super sore and just like that. But that's the first step. And as soon as you realize you do have an injury, leave. Leave the gym, stop working out as soon as you realize that. Because the sooner you start your recovery process, the sooner you're going to be able to get back to the gym and hit the weights as hard as you can. So right after you realize you have an injury, go home and we're going to start RICE. That's right, RICE. Rest, ice, compression, elevation. First thing, rest. Obviously you're home, you're resting, you're done with your workouts for at least a month. Give yourself a month. And then, you can start light back with the weights and everything. Next thing is obviously ice. Any injury you have, you're going to want to ice it. Whether it be a muscle strain, a bruise, or anything like that. And then compression, that's pretty obvious as well. You're going to want to compress the area. For me, I usually get muscle strains in the hamstrings. Compression in that area is a little bit more difficult. Basically, what you got to do is either sit on the ice pack or grab what I've done before is grabbed a rope and wrapped it around my leg with the ice on there and just pulled it as tight as I could. You can do that with a belt or whatever. But basically, I think the best thing would be just to sit on a softball or shit a rock or something. But that's just a for instance, just for hamstrings or leg injuries. And then after compression, finally we have elevation. Now for me, that's a little bit difficult because the area usually is near my torso. So basically, I got to be on a pillow under my ass and be at an uncomfortable position for a while. Now, I don't think elevation is as important as, rest, ice, and compression, but it can still help with the recovery process. So basically, that's it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I hope this video helped, and I'll see you next time.